Shall we start?
Yes.
So I'm here today with Andreas Jopp. Andreas, thank you so much for taking the time to share some of your wisdom and your experience. And we are going to talk a little bit about the MR program, as we call it here in the United States. And Andreas, you refer to it as the metabolic diet. But before we talk about it, I'd like the audience to just get a little feel for you and who you actually are. I'm familiar with you. As a matter of fact, this book was sent to me 11 years ago by someone in Europe who appreciated some work that I did. And it's fabulous. It's the Vitamins Life's Hidden Miracle book, which so much incredible information that I gleaned from this book. But I first wanted to have you share a little bit about, you're a medical journalist, and I didn't know that was a thing. And so I'm sure that's my own ignorance, but I'd love you to share a little bit about how you got to be doing what you're doing. I know you've written several best-selling books. Just kind of let the audience know a little bit about who you are.
Oh, okay. Well, the main thing about a medical researcher or a medical journalist is that they look at studies and then compile it into a readable form for the reader, into a book. So my background is always, I sort of research with an open mind to the result. And then I think about it. So what do we really have to know about health that really brings us into another step? And from that, 9 books came out, translated in 17 languages by now, and many of them were on the best-selling lists. Some of them are translated in English. Most of them are translated in other languages, inclusive Chinese. The latest book that I have in English is On of Health, which you can order through Amazon, and that has been on the bestseller list in Germany as well.
Cool. I have my copy, but I have not started reading it yet.
Okay. Great.
And so that obviously gives you a wide scope of understanding. And I would guess, as a journalist, objectivity is the most important thing, right? You can't look as if you're slanting what you're saying. It has to be revealed in the data, so to speak.
Exactly. I don't, sometimes on a day, I'll write 3 sentences because I just need to go back to the research and see if it's really a fact, because there are so many unproven things with nutrition. And I really want to see not just one study, I want to see a meta-analysis that puts together maybe a dozen of studies and says, yes, they all go into the same direction. This is a proven fact. So that's very important for me.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing it?
25 years.
Ooh. And how did it happen? I mean, if it's 25 years, you obviously were doing something prior to that. So how did it happen?
Well, I used to work for the pharmaceutical industry, looking at, they were sending me to all their conventions and the new medications and the studies on that. So I'm very good at looking at data. I'm also very good at looking at the little tricks the pharmaceutical industry pulls to have the right kind of statistics or get medications approved. So I can detect the pitfalls of studies.
That's great. That's good stuff. And boy, I don't know if you've written books about that, but I know that there's some of that in some of your books that I've had a chance to read. So when we're talking about the MR program, or again, as you call it, the metabolic diet, obviously what is the draw for most people is people seem to lose body fat pretty fast. I mean, I know I had an incredible experience, one that was well beyond anything I expected when I personally did it. But tell me a little bit about that part of the experience, but then we're going to focus more on some of the health implications of of the actual program. What have you seen? Is it across the board? How to, I mean, you've seen a lot. You also are a health coach as well, correct?
Yes. Well, in Europe, over 300,000 people have done the metabolic diet. And they lose fat very quickly because they overcome insulin resistance, which is very important, especially for people with a body mass index over 30. They very often have insulin resistance and can't lose weight. So this is a no-carb diet. And it overcomes basically 3 pitfalls, which are basically in all diets. You have these 3 pitfalls. It's hunger. People, when people are hungry, they fail on any diet. They must feel full. The second one is the psyche and the emotions. If they get into a bad mood, they will stop the diet or cheat, and that's the end of it. And the third part is yo-yo effect. So with the metabolic diet, you work on all 3 parts. You're not hungry because you get a lot of protein and a lot of fiber. You have a very stable emotional system because you get all the nutrients that are important for being psychological stable. And you don't have yo-yo effect because you're keeping your muscle mass by adding enough protein into the diet. And at the same time, it is not just a shake diet that you have everywhere, because you need to really change your nutrition, try out new recipes, walk through a supermarket. So it is really a diet that, on the one hand, addresses the pitfalls of many diets, and on the other hand, gives the body all the nutrients that it actually needs.
Well, you had mentioned to me before something about the way you show it is you use the hands. Tell me about the hands.
The hands. So basically, most diets go down in calories, which ultimately mean that they will go down in vitamins and proteins and all the other biological important substances. The metabolic diet goes the other way. It goes very much down in calories, but it goes up in all the important nutrients. So many people, this is a very funny, and I've seen that again and again and again, I would say in 70% of the cases, people come back and say, I feel so well, I am not hungry, I really didn't expect this. And I usually tell them, well, do it for 4 weeks. And after the 3rd week, we decide if you stay on it. And funny enough, about 80% say they feel so well on it that they like to up their goals and even lose more than you could usually lose in a month, and that they're going to stay on it. And this was so completely new to me, because usually after a month, if you talk to somebody on a diet, they will all say, well, I've had it, it's enough, I can't bear it, I'm in a bad mood, I'm done. And this simply does not happen here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've seen just in our, what 5 months or so of working with it. Couple of things just to something that you said. One, you mentioned 300,000 people. I noticed that was a number you used in the book that you are refining for the US market, but that book was written in 2017. So I would think it's safe to say that number's gone up quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. It should have, I mean, we're 10 years into the metabolic diet now. I wrote it after 5 years, the book. So it's probably double, or 500, 600,000 by now.
Yeah.
So it's a very proven diet.
Oh, I mean, I love how it makes me feel personally. I mean, I'm maintaining it during the week now as kind of my way of functioning. And then the weekends I play. But the other thing you mentioned was no carb, but that's actually not completely accurate. It's more that you're not eating bad carbs, and you're eating, the carbs you are eating are vegetable-based carbs. So you're eating super slow carbs, essentially, right?
Yeah. It's let's put it low carb. That would be more correct. Um, so it's vegetable and no fruit. Um, and then it's basically vegetable and protein from the diet side.
And then the other thing you're doing, right, is you are minimizing fat intake, which is allowing you to more readily release fat. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, absolutely. Because fat has a lot of calories. And fat used to be part of many diets because it makes full, but it simply has too many calories. I mean, if you take out the fat, you can simply reduce another 500 calories easily on a diet.
Awesome. Okay, so we know about people's desire for the weight, right? I mean, that's obvious. It's not only is it it's a desire from a human perspective to want to look good and feel good, but it's critical from a health perspective because you could certainly tie a substantial amount of the health problems in the world to the excess of weight. Let's focus for a couple minutes on the part that jacks me about it is the actual health benefits. Some of the health benefits or impacts that you see, the trajectory of someone's health changing. Share a little bit about some of that, would you?
Well, apart from the more obvious that everybody knows, the three Bs, which is blood fat, blood sugar, blood pressure, which will go down. I think a big part of losing fat is losing inflammation because the fat cells cause inflammation. So inflammation will go down in the whole body, and that can affect the joints. But it also will affect the brain. When inflammation goes down and vitamins and omega-3 and all of these substances are given, one of the biggest impact, I think, is on your mood. And I would figure, especially in the United States. The United States, there's no other nation that has as many depressive and psychological disorders in the world because people are so obese, which will affect the brain. So many people don't really think, they think of their body and nutrition from downward, but they don't think how much nutrition and inflammation from the body actually affects your mood and the brain. So that's what I see the most. People say, yeah, I feel better, I feel energetic, I feel emotional, stable, which is quite an unusual result for a diet. So that makes them very happy. And then in the long run, obviously, you will have other parts that will profit. I mean, when you look, obese people have 3 times the amount of hip replacements as people who are not obese. So if you want to keep your hip, if you want to keep your heart, if you want to have lower blood pressure, will ultimately kill you. And also if you want to lower dementia, because obesity is linked to double the amount of dementia, again, through inflammation and the vascular system. So there are so many health benefits. If you think, if you put it on the scale, you lose 20 or 30 kilograms or 40 to 50 pounds, and you will profit from 3 to 5 years more lifetime. What is more important to do? I mean, do a priority list. You want to live long. But then long-term benefits don't interest people as much as short-term benefits. And the short-term benefit is really the emotional change and the change in the brain, which is the real short-term benefit.
So that leads me naturally to another question that not only have I experienced, and again, I didn't expect to experience it, but I did. And I hear this from everyone. I have yet to have someone do the program who has not expressed how much better they feel, how much more energized they feel And your connection here to the brain would certainly be one of those factors, but there's also a physiological factor to that, is there not? I mean, there's other. Why do people feel so energetic? Why do they feel so good?
You're talking about energy now. Yes, I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
well, obviously, because with taking in all of those vitamins, omega-3, and micronutrients like minerals, and detoxing the body, your whole metabolism will work better. So the kind of stories you usually hear when you put people on nutrients is, I sleep better, I wake up, and I'm actually, I'm full of energy when I wake up. I don't feel tired in the morning. And all of a sudden, people tell you stories like, we started going out during the week again, which I could never do before because I didn't have the energy. Or the weekend is not just to regain my power for Monday morning, but the weekend I can start into the weekend and actually do things again. So this is a kind of energy thing that is quite revealing.
It's great too. I mean, I got to ask this question too, because again, it goes back to the brain thing, but it speaks specifically to what you talked about, depressive, or, I'm someone who naturally has anxiety. It's a natural thing. But during the program, when I'm doing the program specifically and following the eating, and I do the supplements, of course, I just don't have it. It's just not there. Have you heard that as something from others as well?
Yes, I've first of all, I've heard it on the metabolic diet that people actually had to come off their anxiety medication. And then, wait, this slide, my last book, which was a tremendous success in Germany, was Happy Food Instead of Burnout. So there I actually went into in all the new research about nutritional psychiatry, where you can see a tremendous amount of improvements in anxiety, in the depression scale, and in many other fields. I mean, anxiety, but anxiety and depression is probably the most common that you find.
Yeah, fantastic. So how about, when originally I looked at the program, I thought this might be difficult for people, but I have not seen that to be true. Have you found that people have a relatively easy time adjusting to the compliance in general?
Yes, it takes about, sometimes due to the microbiome, you to the colon, sometimes people have to get used to all that fiber that they get all of a sudden and to the probiotic bacteria. So that can take a couple of days. And then it takes a little bit of time when you change into ketogenesis, which is basically your brain will get fat from the fat cells instead of sugar. So once you're over that very initial thing, which may take 4 days, being in the ketogenesis, then you're done, and then people really go well. They get used to cooking themselves, to shopping new, and it's one part that is especially fascinating. About after 3 weeks, your brain receptors will regenerate so completely that your inner demand for sugar stops, because people are addicted to sugar. Sugar. It's basically like nicotine for the brain. And once these receptors rearrange themselves, and that takes about 3 weeks, they don't have the pressure for sugar anymore. And that's very surprising to many people. And after the metabolic diet, they eat a piece of cake and they go like, well, I didn't really have to have this. It doesn't give you that kick that it usually does. And so sugar, getting off the sugar addiction during the metabolic diet is really one of the most important experiences. because
Yeah.
many people don't think that's possible for them.
Fabulous. Okay, just a couple more questions. I want to be respectful of your time, and I'm grateful that you're taking the time. So someone who is, let's say, extremely obese, let's say we're talking 50, 60 pounds up to 100 or more. They're not going to accomplish that in 21 days, right? So how would they proceed? Do they do the strict phase and then take a little break and do it again? Or how do they go forward?
I would really stay in the strict phase as long as you feel like it. Sometimes, after 3 or 4 months, life comes sort of in the way. You have a marriage, you have lots of festivities, maybe you go on a holiday. And then I say, okay, then take a break and continue whenever you're back from holidays. But if you wanted to lose 30 to 40 pounds, I wouldn't stop after a month. I would just continue until you have the feeling, now I sort of want to go back to normal life, and then take a little break and then take the next slide down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
And the interesting part is, and that is quite interesting. I've had people losing, at least recalculated for the viewers, losing 60 kilograms. I don't know how much that is a pound. It's about
it's 100. It's at least 100.
It's at least 100, if not 120 pounds. And they've done that over the course of 16 months, staying on a very low calorie diet. But they have not developed any deficiencies, because the nutrient base that we give along with the metabolic diet had everything in it. Usually you would think when people stay on 600 calories for 12 months, they would develop an enormous amount of deficiencies, but actually their blood values for micronutrients and so forth went up, which is really a great result about the sort of backbone that you're giving of nutrients.
So you actually led me to my next question. So someone who's an athlete or just exercises or works out a lot and wants to use the program as a way to hone themselves a little, or, even if you work out, you can't outrun your fork. Eventually, as we age, your weight creeps, right? And so I know when I did it, I didn't eat 600 calories because I'm extremely active. I'm sure I ate over 1,000 every day. But speak to the athlete, how the athlete or the fitness person, do they just do a little more calories? Is that it?
Yeah, obviously an athlete has more muscle mass, so they will burn more calories. Thus, they may need to eat more, otherwise they go hungry. And basically, to all other listeners, I would always say, don't start sport with a metabolic diet. I promise you lose weight without doing extra sport. I would rather have you spend the time trying new recipes and going to the supermarket than doing sport. Okay, but for the fitness guys who want to get more dry, to have their abdominals, muscles, their six packs, and so forth, I mean it really works. And the only thing that I wouldn't do is pushing heavy weights.
Okay.
So the training machines might not give you that explosive amount of carb energy that you need to push these weights. And there you really need to be careful, because that could lead to injury.
Yeah.
But as long as you're on a treadmill and things like that, obviously that works. So stay with the weight, stay in the medium range, not in the top range.
Great. That's helpful. Thank you. And then last question about specifics. So a woman who's going through the real hormone changes, perimenopausal, menopausal. I mean, I've witnessed it, but I can't relate to it as a human. not having dealt with it. What have you seen their experience be like?
Well, they're actually doing quite well. Many women in menopause, they still have, sometimes they still even have the accumulation of weight when they were pregnant 20 years ago, because they never lost the weight of their pregnancies. Plus, many of the nutrients actually help you during menopause. It's the B vitamins. And if you use something like a triple protein, there is a soy fraction in there that are phytohormones, which is very important. For example, one portion of triple protein has the same amount of phytohormones that Asian women take in per day. And Asian women hardly ever have menopause complications, and they have a lot less breast cancer. So the triple protein from the metabolic diet fits in very well with menopause. I haven't seen any problems with women in menopause losing weight.
Wonderful. So last thing. So one is the book On Off Health, which I ordered. Just talk about this for 1 minute, and then I'm going to have you talk just a little bit about the book that you're going to release, and then we can wrap up. So talk about this one for a second.
This book basically shows all the new research about staying young, and it's not, you can actually stay genetically younger with nutrition. You can repair your body a lot better with certain nutrients because they open your genes and close them. So I talk about how do we get the best repair mechanism with nutrition for our body, because our body is basically one big repair site. Every day you're going to repair your body, and nutrition is the major ingredient of keeping your system working. So it's a lot about staying young, the research, the anti-aging research. And another part, which I think is very important, is the microbiome. How do we keep up this microbiome so it works for us? Because we have more foreign cells in our body than human cells. And they are actually very productive for us. They're very productive for the brain. They're very productive anti-inflammatory. And most people that have bad nutrition, they have a problem with their colon and the microbiome, and they take all kinds of stuff to reach the toilet, to do this and do that. They have allergies, they have bad immunity. The microbiome is really one of the most exciting chapters in medical research at the moment.
Wonderful. And then last question, I know you're working on the metabolic diet book for the US market, which is wonderful, has lots of recipes, but you also, you give such fantastic research-based information. Just give us a teaser for the book, because I know it depends on when someone watches this, it might be out by then, but give us a little teaser about the book.
Well, the teaser about the book is, I mean, the metabolic diet is easy, but what is very complex to understand, what do the nutrients actually do for our health? And so the main aim of the book is to put the nutrients into perspective to having a very stable emotional system, of getting a better skin, because when you lose weight, obviously your skin has to readapt to the smaller size, to why do nutrients do a lot about detoxification for our body. So it's all those parts that I bring together, because you want to grasp what you're actually doing there. You're not just injecting some pharmaceutical stuff, you're actually going on a path to more health, to feeling better, and then you need to understand what nutrients actually do for you, because once you understood that, and there's a lot of research on that, then you're actually willing to change your life. If you don't understand it, or if you're doubtful about what nutrients can do for you, you say, oh, well, I don't really know if that's worth it or not.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Is there anything you'd like to say in parting to those who are watching?
Well, I'm looking forward to some new US readers. You hardly ever get European authors over there. And yeah, you get books on Amazon, and hopefully you go on a path of better health. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time, Andreas. Really, really appreciate it. And I wish you continue thriving in your South African home.
Thank you.
Okay, I stopped the recording.
I don't know.
Were you happy with how that went?
I'm not sure where I stopped the recording. The button has gone.